Okay, we're going to go ahead and get started. With the March 13th Penn Branch Citizen Civic Association meeting. So welcome everybody to the meeting. We do have a special guest, as you all know. We have Jeff Meridian, Director of the DC Department of Transportation. A lot of our people have been asking for several months, saying that they really wanted to hear from the director. So we have a relatively new director here, so I'm glad. Secondly, just want to welcome you here. We have a lot of announcements today, so I intend to move pretty quickly. We do want to make sure that we get our speaker in fairly quickly. I want to welcome a few people. I know we do have Karen Williams in the room, who's president of Hillcrest Citizens Association, just saw her a minute ago. We have our AMC Commissioner Phil Hammond at the back of the room, who's here. His area also covers the Penn Branch shopping center that we've talked about. So just wanted to make sure that that was known. The other thing is, and we know we have a few people circulating petitions, so if you do the courtesy to sign those for whatever candidates that you please do so. So first we will start the meeting really quick. We just have a few housekeeping and we'll move pretty quickly so we can get Jeff Meridian. Merodian. It's Meridian. I've been practicing. Jeff Meridian on because a lot of these people that come, our guests, they work all day and then they come here at night, which is why we do serve food at our meetings, because we recognize that when the people come here, they've had a long day, so we want them to relax here and enjoy the Penn Branch family. We'll start with a few housekeeping issues. I know we have the treasurer's report to do, and I know the last couple of meetings, just due to illness, our secretary, Tawana Banks, who's also been very helpful in organizing several events for us, including the popular community fair, as well as the Easter egg hunt. We just want to go ahead and have her talk, because last 2 meetings we were not able to approve those minutes. So we'll start with Tawana.
Good evening. For the 13th on February Penn Branch Community Meetings. The guest speaker last meeting was DC Chief of Police Peter Newsham. He had been on the force for 29 years. He gave us a visual presentation of the crime statistics within the city. He did say he would be putting more officers on the street, but soon they will have another graduating class of cadets. He'll do better patrol in neighborhoods during the 4th of July holiday period, and highly encourage citizens to partake in festivities on the mall. He would encourage the neighbors leave their porch lights on at night to deter crime. He said because when his officers ride through here at night, it's relatively dark. So can you please start turning on your porch lights? He will request for a survey for the Penn Avenue traffic since neighbors are concerned for their safety when they walk along Pennsylvania Avenue. Officer Jameson reported, discussed once again the importance of having security cameras within your home. And the crime statistics for PSA 7 were down. On the community, well, I call it community outlook, but some of the things that we have to look forward to this spring is the DPW spring tree trimming and the DC water and sewer projects. So those are ongoing projects in the Penn community. That's all I have.
Okay. We need to approve these minutes. Do I have a first?
I move we approve the minutes as read.
Motion to approve the minutes?
Second.
Sorry.
Second.
Anyone opposed? So moved. The minutes are approved. Thank you very much, Tuan. You probably also took my agenda, so.
Thanks. So next, what we'd like to do is have Matt. Are you ready with the treasurer's report? And I think I'll tell you before we do that, we really need to work on getting these membership numbers out and these dues in. So, hello everyone. So the previous balance for the last month period, 2/13 was $1,251.30. Again, as he stated, we really need the membership coming in, and also any fundraising we really want to do. We had total deposits for this period of 2/13 to 3/13 of $100. Withdrawals emergency power account that we recently had issues with, but now it's fixed. There's $600 in that account. But we're kind of keeping that separate to pay for the web side of things. But that's something that we will, that is available to us as well. Is there a move to accept?
Is there a motion to accept the treasurer's report? Move to accept. Anyone opposed? Okay, so move.
Thank you. So as Matt just noticed, so one thing that we're going to do is back on the block captains. I've already spoken with some of them, so every block captain, as soon as the weather breaks a little bit, will be out knocking on doors. We've had a pretty cold winter, a lot of people have been in, but there are 3 ways to pay for your membership, but all the things that we bring you, from the food to the activities, really depends on your ability to pay, and then we need your support. So these block captains, we now have 100% block captains covering every block. You all have received the newsletter that was distributed. It was also distributed on the listserv that we have, so it'd be pretty hard for anyone to tell me they didn't get one. We made sure that if you didn't get one, let us know. We have some copies in the back of the room. But the most important thing, we will be actively recruiting, actively getting people to pay their membership dues. So we think that's important. Next, we'll have our Metropolitan Crime Report from Lieutenant Jameson.
Good evening. One quick thing. I know some of you probably remember the homicide of the 14-year-old that was killed on Minnesota Avenue. That case was closed by 21-year-old Anthony DeAndre Allen. He was found in 37 block of Hay Street with a murder weapon. He also lives at the 55 block of C Street. That was a closed case. He was charged with first-degree felony murder because of the robbery that went south, and that's why he's charged with felony murder. Okay, with that said, we go to crime station 605. They're pretty good for violent crime. There were 0 violent crimes reported for 605 in the last 3 days. Violent crime is therefore down 100%. Property crime is up 52%, and that was driven by stolen autos. For total overall crime increase of 23%. There were 0 robberies and 0 ADWs in 605 for the last 30 days. There was 1 burglary. That was in the 16th block of 40th Street Southeast. There were 6 stolen autos. That's what drove up the property crime. 1 was in the 39th block of Penn, the 43rd block of 8th Street Southeast, 29th block of N Street Southeast, 29th block of O Street Southeast, 1000 block of 31st Street Southeast, and again in the 39th block of Penn. There were 12 auto break-ins that also dropped up the property crime rate. 2300 block of Pennsylvania Avenue, 2900 block of Pennsylvania Avenue, 2500 block of Pennsylvania Avenue, 2300 block of Chapin, 3000 block of Alabama, 700 block of Ridge Road, 3900 block of S Street, 4200 block of Mass Avenue, 4700 block of Alabama Avenue, 3200 block of G Street, 1500 block of Fort DuPont Street, 1600 block of 40th, and 4300 block of Alabama. Those theft break-ins, models, and the stolen autos drove up the violent crime. But like I said, the violent crime was down 100%, but there's no violent crime recorded in 30 days, so that's really good. And hopefully we can keep that up. If there's any comments, questions, or concerns, or any crime issues I could perhaps address for you tonight, there's some things I need to be made aware of.
I do have one request.
Okay, Jimmy.
And, it's a combination of the DDOT, but the one question that people have asked is about the speed of traffic on Branch Avenue.
Okay.
That's Branch Avenue directly in front of Penn Hill, Penn Branch Shopping Center, going up that way.
Going down towards,
Going down. The neighbors have complained about the speed.
between Penn and Randall Circle?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah,
the camera's on the other side.
It misses that, but neighbors have complained about speed.
Okay.
Matter of fact, starting right at the Penn Hill Shopping Center all the way down, those neighbors have complained that they said that people zoom down that way so fast, and a lot of them say they realize that there's no way to mitigate that with things like speed humps or things like that. But they are very concerned that said that something tragic is going to happen at some point.
Okay. I don't know if you heard, but somebody's been destroying the speed cameras lately. And it continued this weekend. We haven't found the suspect yet, but I think the 6 cameras were destroyed this weekend. Because I was on the scene with a couple of them. That might be a good enforcement action there, is the speed cameras. I'm not sure why they knocked both into the ground, but they just come over and just push it over. So I would ask our SOD about relocating the cameras, because one of them, Branch Avenue, was one of the ones that got destroyed.
I have a love-hate with them myself.
Of course, until we get caught, it's always a good thing. All right, and I asked about relocating the camera down to that part of the bus thing. Anybody else? Yes, ma'am.
Just in those multiple areas, is it because during the daytime or is it night where visibility is poor? There's a lot of car braking?
Let me see. These areas here, 39 block of Penn Avenue gets a lot of police attention at that building. So that, and they got cameras down there too, on both sides of the street. I wouldn't say anything particularly jump out, because they're kind of like all over 605. Pennsylvania Avenue seem to be the most, that corridor, 2500 block, 2300 block, that's well there. And I didn't bring a detailed report, but some of these deaths were like, people pull up at the gas station and leave the car open, somebody goes gets the purse, or leave the key running because it's cold, don't want to get warm, it's cold in the car. They jump in, check off the vehicle, that type of stuff. But these particular areas, I don't think there's a lighting problem going on with this. Anybody else? Yes, sir.
My daughter had someone go into her car. It was parked in the driveway, and they went through it and stole a few items she had in there that she had gotten for the homeless people. And
What block does she live in?
she lives in 3520 Texas Avenue,
Okay.
Southeast.
That's a little dark bit back up in there.
Right.
Yeah, off of Commodore. Oh yeah, that's a little bit dark. Okay, 35 block of Texas. Good. And I think, like I said at the last meeting, these theft models, some people are taking like laptops, electronics, and money out of vehicles. I know people past that, but people still leave that type of stuff in their vehicles. And you got to realize some people get up in the morning and their sole purpose in life is to steal from you. And we need not to help them do that. So I'm not trying to be funny, because I live in Fairfax Village and my neighbors getting the same stuff. So what they need to do is take that stuff out of their vehicles, or at least take it out of the sites, but like you just come by and go, oh, a laptop. Boom. Your windows broke, your stuff is gone, and you make insurance claim. Don't help the people, don't be a victim. Don't help them victimize you, is what I'm saying. It's like I was saying earlier about people leave their keys in the car, go pay for gas, and they come back in the car. You might as well put a sign up that says steal me. Because that's what you're doing. That's actually a ticket too. Running out of ticket, that's actually a ticket. And I might start enforcing that, especially during the winter months, to make people won't leave their vehicles running and they getting stuff. Okay, because that stuff drives up everybody's insurance rate. When you get a zip code that has a lot of theft from autos and a lot of stolen autos, it drives up insurance for everybody, even if your vehicle's not stolen. Okay. Next question. I'm just like, okay. Anything else?
Well, actually,
No?
that's pretty good.
Okay. Thank you very much.
And as always, we are thankful to Lieutenant Jameson for coming here, always on time and always ready. Now, one thing that I have to tell you is about the security cameras in the city. You can still get them. You can qualify for up to a $500 rebate for residential. That's still in force. The other thing that I can tell you that in terms of areas where they're taking advantage of this, we are on the low side. We are not taking advantage of those cameras. So I did talk with his daughter. She's going to put those cameras up. But I've been asking for over a year. It's also on our website that you take advantage of this program. I've got security cameras in my house. I spent about $500 on them. I got a $500 rebate, which means I paid really zero, except for the cost to put them up there. We can all do that. As a matter of fact, it is a deterrent. It doesn't stop crime, but it does make sure that we have a record and people do pay attention when they see those cameras on. As a matter of fact, you'll be surprised what you discover and learn about people driving through those neighborhoods with those cameras. And our goal is to at least have every block, at least 2 cameras on every block throughout Penn Branch. We know it's a deterrent, and we know it does work. And better yet, if you're getting it for free and you're not paying much, not paying anything for it, why not put some cameras up, give yourself a sense of mind. If you go to the PennBranchDC.org, go to our website, we do have the applications on there. We have the forms up there. We even have a comparison of the types of cameras, the difference in the cameras that you can get, whether you get wireless, whether you go through ADT. Some of that comparison work we've already done it. So go ahead and do it. If you have any questions, just email us at info@pennbranch.org, and we'll be able to answer those questions. We've already done that work, but we'd like to get our numbers up with that. So with that being said, like I said, I want to be cognizant of everyone's time. We do have a few announcements, but I need to mention that a couple of our officers had obligations, but if you don't know it, I just want to make sure to remind you who the officers of Penn Branch are real briefly. So we have Tawana Banks, who's our treasurer. We have Laverne, I'm sorry, she was our treasurer. She is our recording secretary. Laverne is our muscle person. Laverne Thomas is our parliamentarian. Jacqueline Cannon, sitting in the audience, is our correspondent secretary. And our vice president, Roy Ward, who's also a fireman, a fire DC fire EMS, had to work this evening, so he's not here. So with that being said, I'm going to call up. One thing I have to say, and I'm not just saying it because you're here, that one person, we have our mothers of our community and people who've been long active. We all know that Alberta Paul has done a lot in terms of really being the mother, one of the mothers of the community, really urging us. It's like if the signs aren't put up on time, you'll hear from Alberta. If the newsletter's not out on time, you'll hear from Alberta. If you don't do what Alberta wants, you'll hear from Alberta. So, and that's a good thing. And like I said, I talk to her regularly. So one of the things I want to say is that I'm thankful for the work that Alberta does. So Alberta, I'd like you to, can you come up? Oh. I already texted you, so don't be surprised. So thanks.
I want to, first of all, thank the community for all of the great get well cards I got from a lot of you. Neighbors like Anthony, who's sitting there, who lives across the street, who didn't think it was robbery to move my trash cans back and forth for the first 6 weeks of my healing. If you ever need a hip replacement, go to the Washington Hospital Center, best hospital in the district as it relates to prosthetics, rehab. I watched 35 other people, 25 years younger. They're now swimming and running and dashing, and I'm trying to catch up. But again, I'm very grateful. And I also want to say to my director, DDOT was special during my rehab too. I did not have to cook a meal. DC Department of Transportation people can cook. And so did my neighbors. So now I got to get back to cooking. Tonight is my honor to introduce our current director of DC Department of Transportation, Jeffrey Moroshin. He has had the honor to work everywhere. He's been at DDOT before. Somehow we conned him to come back after he worked during the Obama administration for 8 years. So, you know, he's kind of a person who has learned at a higher level about transportation issues. The best thing I can say about our agency currently having him is he's a people's person. He listens, then he talks. I want to say thank God we have Jeff at DDOT. Thank you.
I may be the director, but everybody knows that Ms. P is the boss. So thank you for that, Ms. P. I also want to acknowledge, got a few other folks here on the DDOT team. Tion Jones, who's in my office, is here, who does a lot of the community engagement work for us. Our colleague Kayvon from the Mayor's Office of Community Relations and Services is here. We do a lot of work with the Mokers day in and day out, trying to resolve community issues. So I just want to take the opportunity very briefly to talk about some of the work that we do at DDOT, some of our priorities, and then really be open to answer any questions, hear any concerns that you might have. So fundamentally, the most important thing that we do at DDOT is about safety. As some of you may know, Mayor Bowser committed to a program called Vision Zero. And Vision Zero is an international effort that many major cities have signed on to eliminate traffic fatalities and serious injuries by the year 2024. And so What that means for us at DDOT is a very serious charge, and I should say that our colleagues at MPD and other agencies play a role in our Vision Zero strategy. But for us at DDOT, it's something that we think about and act upon every single day. It is our focus not just on the bigger systems and how our transportation network operates across the city, but it's also very much on the local level, looking at specific intersections, specific places where we know there are traffic issues, problems, real safety concerns. And it means that we have to focus on how to resolve those, how to do it as quickly as we can, as effectively as we can, all with the aim of reducing serious injuries and fatalities. And so that's something that we think a lot about, and we, I think, are continually making progress on every single day. One of the most important things that we do as a function of that safety effort is our paving program and making sure that our infrastructure is in the best possible condition that it can be. I know that some of you are probably familiar with our Alley-Palooza program. Alley-Palooza was a program that the mayor started about 3 years ago to hit the worst alleys that were dilapidated, in poor condition, and to renovate them and get them into a state of good repair. Over the past 3 years across the district, we have rehabbed close to 400 alleys. And we are doing that consistently, getting ready to announce this spring our next Alley-Palooza, which will be our 7th time doing this, where we're hitting some of those worst alleys. I know that some of them have been right here, not too far away from here, and we've got many more to do in the area. So that's something that we continue to do. And we're also focusing now, as some of you may have heard, on paving our local roads. We know that our local roads, some of them are in tough shape. They need to be resurfaced. Some of them have not been touched in 10, 15, 20 years. And so we're focusing our energies and our attention on hitting those that are in poor condition, getting them into a state of good repair, because that impacts a lot of things, and safety is among them. Along those lines as well, you may have noticed that we are right in the midst of pothole season. I know it's true because I've seen it on my own when I'm crossing all over the city, but I also know it's true because the volume of 311 calls for potholes has gone up. And it's just a function really of where we are in the season. The cold weather, the heavy rain, the freezing and the thawing impacts our roads in such a way that it leaves us, in some cases, with some pretty severe potholes. So I want you all to know that there are 2 things we're doing to address potholes. One of them we rely on your support for, which is using 311. So when you see a pothole, the best thing that you can do is use 311, either call, use the app to let us know the location. But you should also know that we are proactively servicing potholes on all the major and minor arterial roads. So if you see a pothole on Pennsylvania Avenue and Branch Avenue, just know that we are proactively every day running pothole crews down those major roads and hitting them as we see them. So you may see them and report them. We may not have gotten to that specific one yet, but where we specifically and really could use your help and support is on the local roads. Some of the roads that we can't get to every single day, but if you tell us there's a pothole, we will get there and fix it. The last thing I want to just talk very briefly about is something that I think we're all thinking about, but none of us really know exactly what to think, and that includes a lot of us, which is the state of technology and what the future means. We're hearing a lot about technology when it comes to autonomous vehicles, all these innovations that are exciting, but we're not really sure what they're going to mean. The world could be a total utopia where everything is functioning beautifully and everybody is safe because there's no fatalities, because cars are driving themselves. But we know it's going to take us a long time to get from where we are now to that point. So what are we doing as a city to prepare us? And I want to just talk about some of the technological improvements that we're making. Some of them will have an impact on the future, but they also impact us right now. One of the things that I consistently hear about are traffic signals. In fact, just in preparation for this meeting, I heard some concerns about some of the traffic signals in the area. One of the things that we have done recently and are going to continue to do is optimize our entire network of over 1,500 traffic signals across the district. That means what we're doing is trying to maximize the timing so that it benefits motorists, bicyclists, and pedestrians as much as possible. So that's an effort that literally takes us a year to get to a place where we have got that whole network, not just one intersection, but the entire network in alignment. And so that's something that we're going to continue to do, to tweak some of those locations. Certainly as we hear about locations that may need us to take a look at, we are certainly open to doing that, so we rely on you letting us know those kinds of things. We're also doing some innovative things. The mayor not too long ago announced a pilot program for autonomous vehicles, where we're going to be getting some information from folks in the industry about potentials that we can launch as a pilot here in the district to better understand what the technology might look like and how we could be a part of that culture of innovation that we know is afoot. So there are a lot of really exciting things that are happening, and even though some of them are planning for the future, they have impacts for all of us across the district today. That's an overview of some of what we're doing. I could talk for probably 5 more hours about all the great work that DDOT does throughout the city and all the things that we're working on, but the most important thing for me is hearing from all of you. I want to just end on one note, which is that we recently stood up a community engagement office in the director's office at DDOT, and Tian, who's here in the back, is a part of that team. As some of you know, those of you who are on ANCs know that my first job in city government was as an ANC commissioner. And so to me, the value of community engagement is incredibly significant for the work that we do. I don't think we can be successful as an agency without very thoughtful and deliberative community engagement across the board. And so I intend for this to not be my only meeting with this organization. I hope that you will invite us back, invite me back, because I want to hear from you consistently, and I want to make sure that in the interim that you feel that you have an open line to us, and that you can share anything with us at any time. You all have one advantage, which is that you got Alberta Paul here, and believe you me, she shows up at my door fairly often when there's an issue that I need to respond to. So you always have that outlet for a way to get to me. But just know that I intend to be open to all of you going forward. So I'd love to answer any questions that you might have. How do you want to do it?
We'll do questions, but only thing I can say, just limit it to questions, not commentary. So we'll work with that. So we'll do questions and we'll select who goes next. So I saw you next. And
Yeah.
Sure.
My name is Leonard Washington. I noticed, do you have on street repairs, okay, from 27th Street all the way to the bridge? When is something going to happen to those streets there for repair?
You said 27th?
Yeah, going towards Sousa Bridge.
So we are in the process now of finalizing our paving list for this paving season, which starts just in a few weeks. You know, we generally do paving and that type of construction during the warmer weather months. So we're looking at a window really between April and early November. So what we'll do is two things. One, we'll see if that location is on our paving list. And either way, we'll take a look and see what repairs could potentially be made there. Sometimes what we've got is a situation where a road needs to be entirely repaired or reconstructed. Sometimes it just needs a little bit of patching in some trouble areas. So we'll take a look at that, and Tian from our team will follow up with you after this.
Any plans to, for the virtual circle at New York Avenue and Florida Avenue to reconfigure that? And just the other question, the Anacostia streetcar, any plans to finish with that project?
Two questions that I get a lot. The first is the intersection of New York and Florida Avenue, which Dave Thomas Circle is what some people call it, the virtual circle is what some people call it. That's the one thing I think across the city everybody agrees on, is that intersection is interesting, to say the least. We've got a few different concept designs that we are working off of to improve that intersection. What's interesting, for those of you who remember what that intersection was like 10 years ago, believe it or not, we've actually made it considerably safer for what it is now. It's still not ideal, but it functions more safely than it did before. So we're working off a few different plans. We recently went public to the community, I want to say 2 or 3 months ago, with some of those concept designs. They are on our website. We haven't landed on an alternative yet. There are a number of factors that we're still working through, but it's something that we are actively thinking about as to how to make that intersection better. What we want to do in a case such as that is to get it right so that we don't have to go back and do it again. So that's why we're spending a little bit of time being deliberative to make sure we get it just right. We are currently moving forward, as some of you may know, with the eastern expansion of the streetcar alignment towards Benning Road, down Benning Road, and that is our priority right now from an agency perspective to move that project forward. We've got a lot of information which I'm happy to share about where that project, the benefits of that project, what what it will do in a number of ways, most importantly to move people down the corridor. And that's really where our focus is right now on streetcar, just in the immediate horizon.
I saw that.
So far, I feel as though that it's a waste of money right now because we're spending so much money on that streetcar, just going from one area to another. It's just wasting money.
So if I heard you correctly, about your question about the streetcar, it's interesting that the number, we just celebrated our 2-year anniversary on streetcar with consistently growing ridership, and I think there are a number of folks who have found the benefit of using the streetcar as a part of their daily commute.
I've seen that empty so many times. So you're talking about, more and more people riding now. You need to go down there and stand and look at it.
I didn't hear the last part of it, but I'm happy to. Yeah.
Just please stand up if you're able.
My name is Dolores Coleman. You really need to go there yourself and look at how many riders come on and how many get off. It's a waste of money.
Sure. I appreciate your observation.
Not only mine, but many people.
I think the way that we evaluate these systems are across multiple levels, and one of them is the ridership. And so the ridership of streetcar is a system that continues to grow, and people have expressed to us the benefit. I realize that it may not be a system that suits everybody's commute, and I think that's the benefit of the way that our transit network is designed. There are some folks who rely on certain components of it and not others, and there are some that rely on every single component. So we have folks in the district who use Metro Bus, Metro Rail, they use a streetcar, they may use Capital Bike Share. So there are a number of different transit options, and the goal for us is to make those options available to as many folks as possible.
Also, is the benefit of us to ride in and not have it done, get rid of it, because it's a waste of money, and our taxes are growing up. That's all, from one area to
I think you have a question on that.
Yes.
Rosemary Crockett. I'm concerned about bicycle access to the Sousa Bridge and Anacostia Park. When I come down Pennsylvania Avenue trying to get to Capitol Hill, it's like a suicide ride. You can get run over right there trying to get onto the bridge. Now, it's good that the cut was put in the sidewalk in the street there so that you don't have to hop the curb to get onto the bridge. But the cut that was put in, it's like a 90-degree turn, which is very difficult to do on a bicycle. That really does not work. It needs to be staggered so that you can actually make the turn. But then when you get up further and try to get onto the actual bridge, it's a suicide action. I mean, people are bombing down Pennsylvania Avenue at 50 to 70 miles per hour, making the curve onto 295. Something has to be done to make that intersection safer for pedestrians and cyclists.
Thank you for that. I think one of the most important things we do, and you really strike right at the heart of our Vision Zero effort, which is to look not just system-wide, but at specific locations to better understand what we can be doing differently or better. We'll follow up with you about. I want to hear a little bit more about what your commute is and how you interact with that route, and also tell you a little bit more about some of the things that we've got coming. Because building an accessible bike network across the city is something that has been made a priority to me by almost every single community that I go to. Multiple people often share that concern, and it's a huge priority for us as more and more people are using bikes to get around.
Yeah, and before we go to the next question, I'll amplify that. That's a frequently asked question, and the other one that we receive is just the mobility through this area for bicycle routes is pretty limited. Down Pennsylvania Avenue is not. I've ridden there myself, and so to amplify that question, it's probably one of the frequent ones, about top 10 that we get, but that was just it's pretty high on the list.
Okay.
I think he was next.
Yes.
I would like to see the left turn light from Pennsylvania to Branch stay on 100% of the time. Because most of the time during the weekend, that light is off. So I would like to see it on 100%. It should be on 100% of the time, the left turn area at at Pennsylvania and Branch.
Well, Ms. P, can we take a look at that?
Yeah, we'll take a look, at that.
Okay.
It'll go in the system tonight.
Okay, yeah, I'm not quite sure I understand exactly what you're saying, but we'll go out there and take a look.
Well, maybe I can clarify. If you're, on Pennsylvania Avenue, we're headed east on Pennsylvania, right? Right up here. Look, okay, I don't know my
We'll take,
directions.
we'll take a spin by there after this meeting and get a better sense of exactly what we're talking about.
You know where it is, don't you, Alberta?
Yeah.
Right at the church. That left turn arrow is off most of the time on the weekend and sometimes during the week. And it should be on 100% of the time.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
We'll get it, a repair will go in tonight.
Yeah.
Yeah, here and then there. Yep.
No, over here.
Yeah,
I think he was speaking. Sure. No problem.
Sorry, I'm really bad at this. Yeah.
Good evening, Anthony Diallo. Two quick questions. One, in terms of potholes, and this is just really for my edification. In places like Minnesota and places where it's much colder, it seems like they're able to get a grasp on potholes being fixed and done. But we seem to, and this is way before your time probably, but we seem to keep having to fix the same potholes in the same streets every 3 to 6 months. Is there some way to fix that? And my second quick question is, what is the plan for Pennsylvania Avenue now that we are supposed to be getting more infrastructure, more stores in Penn, Mar, Branch, and in the area?
Yeah. So, admittedly, I don't think I've ever been to Minnesota specifically, so I can't talk about the quality.
I have.
Have you? Okay. So I can't speak about the quality of the roads there.
Yeah.
We think we do. But I can tell you a couple of different observations, because this is something that we hear a fair amount. First of all, the most important thing that we can do is keep our roads in a state of good repair. So the ones that are in the worst condition, which repeatedly have problems, we just need to repave and make sure that we're getting that piece of it right. And that's something that we're aggressively doing. Part of the challenge that we have is that the volume of traffic on some of our roads is particularly high. And so it's not entirely just the weather. There are heavy construction vehicles, trucks, those kinds of things have a real impact. And some of our major roadways see 20, 25,000 cars a day, and that has an impact. And so we are aware of those kinds of challenges and working to address them as much as we can with everything that we're doing strategically, not just to fix those roads, but to preserve and maintain them. And filling potholes is one of those functions, but it's not entirely. Some of those repairs aren't necessarily potholes. They could be other things that need to get fixed, other damage that may not be natural. There's sometimes vehicles cause damage, those kinds of things. So we're addressing them as quickly as we can based on what the issues and the challenges are. We are in the process now of planning for some of those upcoming projects like the one that you mentioned, and we can get you more specific information. I'm pretty sure there's some on our website which Ms. Paul can point you in the direction of, that has a sort of more strategic look at the plans and what the different options are within the current designs.
Hi. I have a couple of questions. The first one is, what are the plans for reworking the intersection of Minnesota and Penn, and what is the timeline for that? And then a more broader question that I have is, really, what are the plans to better link this area with downtown, whether it's better access to Metro, or it's a circulator, or a better Metro bus? I've lived here a long time, and consistently, you have to take your car to get downtown. And as the traffic has gotten worse and worse, it's become more of a problem in this neighborhood, which is sort of like, kind of isolates us. So I'd really like to see that addressed. And, the last public official that I spoke to said the streetcar. Well, I can't wait for the streetcar. to link us to downtown. I just don't think that that's a viable option, so I hope that you're not going to say the streetcar is what the plan is. Thank you.
Yeah, no, I appreciate these questions. I think one of the things that we're constantly thinking about is connectivity. And so that's neighborhood connectivity, but it's also individual connectivity. And how do we most efficiently connect people to where they need to go and where they need to be as efficiently for them as possible, but also as efficiently for our system. We don't want a city where every single person is in their own car by themselves, especially as we are consistently adding residents every single month. That's not a sustainable. We can't build. Our friends in Maryland and Virginia can expand their highways. We don't have that luxury. So we've got to maximize with what we've got now in terms of infrastructure. And so a huge piece of that is building out our transit network, and that's everything. Streetcar is a part of that. Our bus system, our Ramada system is a part of that. Our bike sharing system is a part of that. And that's not limited to Ward 7. That's across the district. We are consistently looking to expand access points to alleviate the need for you to get in your own car and drive yourself somewhere because there's no other option. So specifically your question about that intersection is one that I get a lot, and we're in the process now of designing what that intersection is going to look like. And we will, at some point in the next, I want to say few months, but I don't know the exact time frame, but we'll follow up with you, come back to the community with an updated final design that was by and large based on the community feedback. You know, one of the challenges that we get, and something that I'm consistently thinking about, is that there are multiple community touch points in some of our major infrastructure projects, and then there are long periods where our engineers go into a dark room and start putting to paper what some of those concepts were. And in some cases that's 3 or 4 months, in other cases it's 10 or 11 months, or potentially even longer. One of the challenges that we have is staying consistently engaged with the community to let folks know where things are, and that we may not have anything new to share in terms of a status, but to just know that something is consistently moving. So it's my goal to get even more engaged with the community, so that when we're getting ready to take a project from the design phase into the construction phase, it doesn't seem like it's coming from nowhere, even though it may have been 10 or 11 months since we last had that conversation. I don't know when we last did the community engagement. It was probably about a year ago on this project. 2016, yeah. So I realize that for some that seems like an eternity, but I can tell you the project is moving forward at a pace that I think we will start to see. You'll see a final design of that very soon, and from that point forward, we'll be able to move it along. And I will make sure that you all know when that meeting is, and I expect that it will be relatively soon, definitely this year. Hopefully, if not before the summer, then during the summer.
Can you just give more specifics though about improving connectivity for this neighborhood to downtown? Because I just didn't really hear anything specific.
Tell me a little bit more about can you tell me what your route is? What's the because every connection point is different.
Well, basically the two routes that I take are either Pennsylvania Avenue to the Sousa Bridge, or Branch Avenue cut through Hillcrest to get to the 11th Street Bridge. So those are like my two main ways of getting to the other side of the city.
And what do you say the other side of the city? What's your destination point?
Well, it would either be Capitol Hill or maybe
Got it. Okay.
Or downtown, further on into downtown.
Yeah. So why don't we chat with you a little bit about what some of the I can think of a few potential things that would benefit. I want to get a little bit more information about your route and what we may be able to suggest in ways that we may be able to inform some of our current projects that are being planned based on that kind of feedback. As several know, Commissioner Marlin among them, this is how we figure this stuff out, is by hearing where some of the pain points are for the community and getting a better understanding of what we can be thinking about as we go forward. So yeah, I would love to chat with you a little bit more. Yeah.
Have you considered water transportation? Is that a possibility?
Yes, it's something that a lot of folks have thought about. It's not something that I would say is imminent on the horizon. There are a number of factors that impact water transportation, certainly our federal government colleagues and others have some strong feelings about what some of those systems could potentially look like. So while it's an idea that's out there, I can't say that it's going to happen anytime soon.
Go ahead.
Oh,
No, go ahead.
alrighty. All right, I was curious about Minnesota Avenue. That repair project, I think, has been going on for probably 18 months, or at least it seems like an eternity. So I'm not sure if your department handles that, but could someone just give us an update on what are they doing and why is it taking so long? There are other projects that seem to have started after that and they're fully finished and already baked.
Yep. Yeah, that's a great question. Yeah. So Ms. Ball has some information on some more specific information on that project if you'd like to see it. But I'll talk about it generally. One of the things that I like to, when I think about these kinds of construction projects, to me, it's like surgery. And so in some cases you've got a quick surgery that's you're in and out in an hour. Some cases you've got a day's worth of work, and in other cases you're staying over for up to a week, sometimes even a month. And this particular project is one that I would classify as towards the longer end of that spectrum because of the extent of work that's required and really the number of implications that coincide with it. When we do these kinds of major construction projects, there are a number of other factors that we have to mitigate while we're there, and sometimes that just adds time to the project. Now the good news is that we have saved a considerable amount of time on this specific project, so we are moving it forward at a quicker pace than anticipated. But I realize that doesn't mean that it's still not headache causing for many folks who have to live with it. The current phase of the project is at Minnesota and Benning, and that ends, I believe, at the end of April. So that piece, which is, I know, particularly has been difficult. We have taken a number of steps to make it better. We've added traffic control officers. We've begun to do some of the work overnight that doesn't have a noise impact, just to try to save some time there. So we are taking steps to try to minimize the impact on the community.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Sure.
Just kind of off the top of the traffic, but about 4 or 5 years ago was a bad storm. And 2 big giant trees fell on 2 homes opposite of my home. And I had put in to have this big tree kind of trimmed back. But it seemed like I can't get it, just, so it's not hitting the roof.
Is the tree is in public space?
Yeah, it's outside of the house. Oh, on Carpenter Street.
Carpenter Street? Okay, we'll, Tiana will get your exact address and we'll follow up with you.
Oh.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. We'll take a look at it.
Follow up on your comments about pain points and connectivity. And the pain point, I think, in our neighborhood is Pennsylvania Avenue during rush hour. You know what that's like, bumper to bumper. I don't really have any answers for that, but the other part of that is that we're sort of isolated here because we're in this pocket where there's, to discourage commuter traffic coming through the neighborhood, we have all these one-way streets. And what that does is blocks us into our own neighborhood, sort of, puts us inside a gate. So, well, as I said, I don't really have an answer to the bumper-to-bumper on Pennsylvania Avenue, but when I need to go somewhere and I don't need to join that traffic, I'd like to be able to get out the back way. Why can't we just have signs that say one-way, certain rush hour, except for local traffic? We've seen those signs elsewhere around town. I want to be the local traffic.
Can you give me a couple examples of the streets you're talking about?
Texas Avenue, Carpenter Street. I'm at Pennsylvania and Texas, but if I want to go out to Branch, I have to get into the flow on Pennsylvania before I can turn on Branch. I can't use those other streets that will connect to Branch further down.
Yeah, Ms. Paul wants the microphone. I won't say no.
No. There are, to answer his question, he asked you. Legally, we only have 38th Street at Pennsylvania that says do not enter between 6 and 7.
And
we have 33rd, the whole street. We have the whole street. No, I want to list all of them.
Okay.
I was going to tell you what she said.
Oh, yes, baby. Okay. Within Penn Branch yourself, you have 3. You have 38th Street right at the top of Pennsylvania Avenue and 38th. At the bottom, near your house at 33rd Place, there's a do not enter, and it's do not enter from the Carpenter Street side and the Pennsylvania Avenue side. And you have the do not enter at O from the Carpenter side and to the branch, and from the Branch Avenue side. That's an easy solution. There's an easy solution. The community just has to work with their neighbors, discuss it, and submit a petition, and the signs will be removed. It cannot be, currently, we can push for, wait a minute, we can currently ask the legislation to allow us as an agency to do it, because the law is DCMR 22 for my ANCs. You taking the law down for me? DCMR 22-18 says local streets are streets we take out of the grid. That's the first definition. The second definition is we can put the word local traffic up when we have major construction on multiple streets, and it's going to take 3 months to 2 years or 18 months. But we can't just put up local traffic only, because what defines local? Because if I come from the 3700 block of Carpenter and want to do what you suggested and make a right, am I local traffic or will I get a ticket? So we can have a win-win. We need to look, because we only have 3 blocks that's closed. Now, we can resolve it into 3 blocks, even though it's both ends of the street. You still have DuPont Park, every street from Branch, starting with Q, down the Randall Circle, is do not enter. And it's something we as communities, 8 to 12 years ago, decided we wanted. So now we have to think through the process before we either remove the signs or ask for legislation, which the ANCs will do, and our ANC is here, to modify the current 22-18 to allow us as an agency to put the sign that you want. But the director is not going to jail, so we're going to ask the ANC to consider it and make a recommendation that 22-18 is amended to allow the local traffic sign. Okay?
Mrs. P, just another comment. Can those signs be consistent? Some of them are do not enter between 6 and 9:30, and some of them are do not enter between 7 and 9:30. So can they just be consistent and start at 7?
We will, why don't we work together to identify what those locations are, and we'll take a look at each one of them.
They're not consistent now.
We can do that.
Yeah, I was just going to say, the ANC Commissioner Philip Hammond for this area, signs are there because the citizens on the street has asked for those signs. So what she's saying is that we do have to work with the people who live there in terms of consistency. They may not want to have that change. So we have to work, we have to be diligent in regards to working with those people to know what they want as well as the rest of the community.
I just wanted to follow up on that comment. The people who live on those blocks that have the signs, but it affects more of an area. As I said, I live 2 blocks away, but I still can't get out of my house to go the direction that I want to go to. So I know what you're saying, and I know it was requested, but I just want to make sure that the input is, I guess it's defining local, and I don't know what the regulations say about local, but
We can certainly have this conversation. I think there are a number of implications that we would want to talk through, and I think Commissioner Hammond is exactly right that we need to get a better sense of what the residents want. The challenge for us is on enforcing that. It is very difficult to identify. You know, you may reside on a block and have a guest. Would that guest be allowed to come during those times? Those kinds of things are difficult to solve for and enforce, but we can certainly have the conversation.
We live in the 3300 block of Carpenter Street, and I want that sign to stay there in the morning.
I know this.
Well, so let's be rich. Yeah, all the way in the back.
Yes, I see now that there's a choice for people to have skateboards to get around. There's $1 an hour. So is there going to be a lane or something designated area for those skateboards? Or how is that gonna work?
I'm not familiar with what specific skateboards you're talking about, but we can certainly find out.
The little, no, it's the little thing without, you just go like that.
Oh, you have so the scooters.
No, not with the stick. I mean,
No.
it's just
Oh,
a single skateboard, there's a thing.
Oh, a hoverboard.
No, it's skateboard, it's just a flat piece of wood with wheel here and wheel here.
Yeah, I honestly, I'm not really sure specifically, and we can maybe follow up with you guys that are sensitive.
They're at the Foggy Bottom Station, I saw them this morning, $1 for an hour for those little things, so that's what I just saw them today.
Got it. Well, there won't be a separate lane for them, that much I can tell you.
That's the answer. That's the bottom line.
Yeah, that's the line.
Is there a possibility that we could get community or neighborhood stickers that would allow us to enter those streets during rush hour?
Realistically, probably not. I think that's we would have to do something similar for every street, every neighborhood. I think.
Because even if you live in the neighborhood, like her concern, if I'm out, I can't come up that street.
Right. No, I understand. I understand those
I would
challenges.
have to go all the way around to Branch Avenue to come home.
I understand those challenges. We'll take a look at some of those specific streets and see if there are regulatory changes that could potentially ease some of that. But I think it remains critical that we're talking to folks who live on those specific blocks.
Well, you also have to consider the people who are affected by it as well. So it's both.
I got a question.
Yep.
Hi, how you doing? Kyle Murphy. I wanted to follow up on a couple of comments and questions about bike infrastructure. So we attended some of the community meetings about the Minnesota and Pennsylvania intersection, and we raised some of the concerns that Ms. Crockett had raised also about trying to get through there on bicycles and also just as a pedestrian. And some of the comments that we got back from the designers is that that area is so congested already that trying to build in even a protected bike lane, or not even a protected bike lane, but a bike lane that's in one of the lanes of traffic, or even sharrows, they said those are things that are unlikely to have much of a difference, and we probably won't be able to do it in that area. And we tried to push the designers and say, look, what it's doing right now is it's forcing pedestrians, cyclists, and even cars into the same space, and pedestrians and bicyclists to compete for area on the sidewalk where there's also a bus stop. And so maybe looking at some alternatives, including parallel streets, where we're taking parallel streets off the table for cars, perhaps rightly so, but in other parts of the city, say 15th Street as opposed to 14th Street in Northwest, you've got a busy corridor on 14th Street, so you use 15th Street as the one to funnel bicycle traffic north and south. That's something that potentially we could do. We bike commute most days of the week, and we use neighborhood streets to parallel Pennsylvania going down, but there's several crossings that are very difficult. And then once you get to the Minnesota intersection, you're taking your life in your hands every day. So one question is about the parallel streets. Second question is, we in Ward 7 and 8 are blessed to have Anacostia Park, but we're also cut off from it because of the highway that was put there. We've heard occasionally when other representatives come that as part of the 5-year plan, they're looking at ways to change access and maybe change the whole configuration of 295. What can you say about that? What can you say about opportunities for either flyovers or tunnels underneath 295 to increase access for Ward 7 and 8 residents to this park that really belongs in our wards?
Sure. Great question. Both great questions. Let me just, on your first question, expanding bike accessibility remains a huge priority for us across the system of roads really connecting throughout the city. Part of the challenge that we have is that we really can't move forward with a project unless it is 100% safe and solved for every safety condition. And with bicycle facilities, there are a number of factors that touch that. I think your point about parallel facilities is right on the money, and looking for opportunities where there are places to include safe facilities that would allow a similar level of access. So I think that is very much the way that we are approaching this, is where can we find those types of opportunities where we can build out a protected facility that's safe, not just for cyclists, but for everybody else who uses that intersection. So it's certainly a priority, and I want to just make sure that you know that just in the cases where we're not able to include bike facilities in a project, it's not for lack of trying. In fact, the head of our our planning division used to be our bike infrastructure person. And so every single project that we have has a cyclist's lens on it to ensure that if there's an opportunity there, we can find it. Regarding accessibility to the park and to other amenities throughout the wards, I should say, that remains a priority for us. There are a number of I think, visionary projects that are out there. Some of them are rather complex in terms of their scope and the amount of time that it will take to ultimately deliver on them. But to me, the benefit of, there are a lot of people who think about transportation as concrete and asphalt, and then there are people who think about it as a way to connect people to each other and to their neighbors and to opportunities across the city. And that's why I got into the transportation space, and that's why I think a number of our team members at DDOT got into this space, is because there is a real opportunity to make those connections. The challenge that we have is that building those projects takes time, it takes a dedicated focus, and it takes resources. So the good news is that we are thinking about those kinds of opportunities and those types of projects that would expand accessibility. I should also say that the benefit of those kinds of things is that they also expand safety. The more people that we have who are biking, who are walking, who are using safer facilities, I think ultimately leads to a safer city.
Just a quick one. Garrett Hughes, my name. Fort DuPont Park between Mass Avenue and Ridge Road, the worst section of this town in terms of potholes and just road disrepair. And I mentioned that to the mayor last spring, September.
No, I appreciate that. The question about Fort DuPont Park. So the park itself and the roadway network is actually the property of the National Park Service. We have, and I will continue to advocate to them to help support us by repaving those roads. They, as you know, the National Park Service operates a number of our roadways in the district, and the average person, often myself included, can't always distinguish when I'm traveling on a National Park Service operated road or if I'm traveling on a local district road. So we are very much trying to resolve that specifically in the park, which I realize those roads are in tough shape.
So you don't. So it's not your responsibility. You have to coordinate.
Yeah, so we technically, legally couldn't go in and pave any of the roadways within Fort DuPont without a permit expressly from the National Park Service. So those roads fall within their jurisdiction, which means technically they are the ones who should be providing that level of maintenance. And we have, and I know many residents have, also advocated that work be done.
Yeah.
I have one more concern. The intersection at Pennsylvania and Minnesota, where you make the left turn off of Pennsylvania onto Minnesota, and then you get in those 2 lanes to turn left, that is so dangerous from Pennsylvania, because if I'm in that extreme left lane on Pennsylvania, people are cutting over from that other lane in front of you. Something really needs to be done about that. I've been close to getting hit numerous times, really.
Yep.
That's very dangerous.
Yep, and that's why we're trying to fix that intersection. And we're going
I mean, is there anything you can do before you do your major?
No, that's one of those locations that really requires a significant engineering change, and that's what we're gearing up to do, is to fix not just how it functions, but also to fix the safety of the folks who use that intersection.
So I do have one more. So I heard something quite clearly from this room. So I know a lot of people, and thank you very much. I really appreciate it, Jeff. And I heard 2 things that were very clear in the room, and a lot of the questions were repeated. So I know one of them was the traffic along Pennsylvania Avenue. They started, they put the median in. Some people complained about the bicycle lanes. Other people complained saying, I lose so much time because I'm stuck with Maryland traffic. I can't get through my own neighborhood because of the do not enter sign. I personally look at one day, and I have to say some days when I'm in a pinch, I run the sign and go 1 block because I timed it. Saves me 10 minutes. I go down, I do it the right way, I lose 10 minutes. And I've tested it right before when I found that you were coming. Thanks. So I understand people.
I didn't hear that.
Look, I'm saying it on camera because it's true, and I said I tested, but it's not just us, it's an issue. I sat there one day and watched the number of cars that do that. And a lot of them are people that live in the neighborhood that do it because they know that they save 10 minutes. So it's a big problem, so it's one that we look at. The Pennsylvania Avenue corridor and the traffic there. I think the ANCs, we have Phil Hammond, I think Robin Marlin, I saw you somewhere, oh, right behind them. You know, I don't have one. So it's a frequent problem, so some of these concerns. And I can tell you the third thing that I hear, the bicycle traffic underneath the bridge. Not only that, we have a homeless lady on one side, so it's a lot of issues over there, the traffic issues, and we hear that time and time again between the one-way signs, good for the block, bad for the community, but you gotta balance both. So I'm just summing up what I've heard Peter say, the issues, and we've been asked time and time again. The need for a community traffic. Some people have proposed stickers. Some people have said, I know police can't really look at your address and say, oh, you live 2 blocks away, 3 blocks away, where does it stop? But those are areas where I think we want to continue to have a dialogue about it. So, I mean, I know it's difficult questions to answer. I know Alberta has done a lot to answer the questions. But one of the reasons that, you're here is people say we really want focus on these issues. So I thank both of you all for what you do on it. I know they're difficult, they're not going to be resolved overnight. I do have, I'm sorry, go ahead, Commissioner.
Well, I wanted to add something to you, and thank you for summing up for these projects that have been on the books now for probably 10 years, that we've been working on them. And they have come to fruition now, but the 11th Street Bridge, we worked on that for years, and it's long before your time. 11th Street Bridge was sold to us as being able to take some of the traffic off of Pennsylvania Avenue. And if you remember, the Southeast Freeway was closed for a while. Yep. So once they opened it up, the commuters, to me, they just came back to doing what they were usually doing, because to get on 11th Street Bridge, they wouldn't come through our community. A lot of I do this every single morning. I'm out there, but I get up early enough to beat them. 6:15. I'm on the road, even though I'm not doing work until later. But the 11th Street Bridge, I think, I asked Terry Bellamy to look at it, your predecessor, to see how you can encourage commuters to use that route, because they come down Pennsylvania Avenue, still go over the bridge. They can take that route and get on 295 and go on 11th Street. On the 11th Street Bridge, but they just won't do it. And as long as we have all these openings, I call them, for them to use, they're going to come on Pennsylvania Avenue because it's more of a straight shot coming out of Waldorf and coming out of Upper Marlboro. But 11th Street Bridge was sold to this community. They promised us that it would take the traffic off of Pennsylvania Avenue and Branch Avenue, and it has not done it. So it was a waste to, where's the lady with the waste of money? It's a waste of money on that bridge. So if you could, during your time, you all think of a way to encourage them.
Google.
To do what?
We're working with Google to update their maps to everybody and stop charging everybody so much to keep their Google updated. So Google is going to come down by 30% on their price. They're starting with Virginia, and I think that's unfair. They should give district residents that break first. But one of the problems is Google Map never updated holistically all of the new arms and routes of that bridge. And we have a team called the AWI team, and they're working with them to get it done. They've made a full commitment because they can make money out of it. Because they're selling it as an easier route, because it is. Because nobody's using it. Big empty space. Okay, so that's what we're doing to do that.
So Jimmy, thank you for that. I just think that emphasis could be in Suitland Parkway. I can't figure it out. If I was coming out of Waldorf, there's no way in the world I'd come down Branch Avenue. There are too many other ways before you get to Branch Avenue to get downtown. So that would help. Some kind of way.
Commissioners, thanks for the work you do. And I think we have 2 more things, so I just had some questions that were sent before we wrapped in. And I know that Mrs. Coleman raised the issue about the streetcar. The other question we had was about the placement of the car bar. We have a lot of people that are, mixed reactions on the streetcar, but then there's some people that had strong concerns about the placement of the car bar. In addition to that, I understand it's either in Ward 7 or close to Ward 7. So if you can address that, and then finally have a wrap up.
Yeah, so no, I appreciate that. So we we are talking about, just to be clear, we're talking about a prospective additional car barn, which is not a part of, as we are doing the environment. So I'll take a step back and say that we're in the process now of doing two things. We're evaluating both the eastern option, the eastern expansion, which is closer to construction, and then the western expansion of the streetcar system, as a part of the environmental process, which is this federal review process that we undergo to essentially get the environmental clearance for these kinds of projects. And we do this environmental process for every single project that we have. We essentially we map out the entire landscape of what the project is going to look like to determine the environmental impacts. And so a part of that analysis would be the hypothetical inclusion of a car barn for one component of the project. In this case, it would be the western expansion. So that's what we're in the current phase of evaluating, is where that car barn would potentially be located. And that process is still ongoing. So there isn't a definitive decision point about where that would be located. We have looked at a number of facilities, several that are in this ward, and so we're in the process now of making that evaluation as a part of the environmental assessment to say, this is where we think this facility might look, and do the environmental impact based on that location. And so that is not a definitive. That's not a definitive commitment or a definitive factor in this project, and that's not going to be a component of the project that we're currently doing, which is expanding the line east.
Okay, no, thank you very much. Sure. So my final, before we do that, the final thing is just to wrap up. Now, the one thing that, these questions are not new. We've been taking these questions, like I said, over the last year. So the next question is the follow-up, because that's the question we're going to have. What's the best manner to ensure that there is some traction, there is some follow-up on these, and how do we make sure that a year from now that we know that there's traction, that we're not asking the same questions, and that we really are getting some action?
So the most important thing for us is that you are that you're sharing your concerns and that you have a clear channel to us. So I would tell you that the most important thing you could do for day-to-day retail things, potholes, sidewalk fixes, things that aren't major construction but that require a quick fix, a tree issue, for example, a street light that's out. The first and foremost thing to do is put it into 311. And there are a number of different ways you can do that. And the importance of 311 is that it creates a record that can't be deleted, so that if all of us are no longer in our jobs tomorrow, that record is still there. And you could point to, I put that record in on March 12, 2018, and this is the history of it. So I would encourage you to do that as a first point. The second thing that you should do, we've got multiple folks here in this room who touch the community in different places. So Tion Jones from our team is responsible for community engagement for the ward. Alberta Paul, who's a member of this community, who knows the agency inside and out. Our colleagues in the Moker's office, who I think may still be here, are gone, okay? But the Mayor's Office of Community Relations and Services is certainly one point. I should say that my old friend Cedric in the council member's office, he and I talk, I don't know what level of frequency, but for the past 10 years a lot. So any way that you could, that you feel comfortable raising the concerns, whoever your point person is, you can feel free to reach out to me too. Feel free to do that, and we'll give you an honest answer. And this is sometimes the challenge, is that sometimes we get asked to solve simple things that we could do in a couple days. Sometimes what we get asked is fixable, but it might take us 6 months to a year. And sometimes we just can't solve whatever problem it is. And I don't like to tell people no, but sometimes we have to if it means just being honest and transparent about what we can do. So I would encourage you to just engage however you feel most comfortable, and just know that we want to hear from you directly. If there are issues that you've been trying to resolve, let us know, and we'll see what we can do to give them a fair look and let you know an honest answer of where things are.
Okay. Yeah. So again, like I said, we want to make sure we follow up, but like I said, I'm very appreciative to Jeff, Tyrone, and the staff, Alberta, Paul, for all the work that they've done, Commissioner
commissioners, Marlon, Commissioner Hammond, and if I missed anyone. This is hard work. We know it's a lot of issues. And as you can see, even with the street signs, it's really difficult. So we really thank you again, once again, thanks for the work and thanks for coming. So real quickly, just have a few minor announcements, and this is non-political, so there are petitions on the table if you want to sign them. But tomorrow we have, Vince Gray has State of Ward 7. Thursday, we have the mayor of the state of the district. Those will be coming out on the listserv, so just want to make sure you're there. By the way, if you see a neighbor next to you, shake your neighbor's hand, let them know. Any new neighbors that have been living here less than a year, Bert is pointing to somebody. She's throwing somebody in the class. Who? Anthony and his wife, please stand up. Anthony and his wife, can you please stand up? And then tell me his name, because I know your name is not his wife. Thank you.
Her name is Vilma.
Yes. Thank you very much. Obviously, you already know who you are. So. Cal's not new. Yeah, but anyway, thank you. Yeah, thank you very much, everyone. If there's any other questions, oh wait, I'm sorry, one more announcement. Important announcement.
Good evening, neighbors. I wanted to let you know about a scholarship opportunity. If you have a son, grandson, granddaughter, cousin, niece, nephew, the East Coast chapter of Tuskegee Airmen Incorporated has $1,000 scholarships each year for graduating seniors in the district, Northern Virginia, and the suburban Maryland counties. So please, if you like an application, see me. I have them with me tonight. The student must have a B average. They have to have 3 letters of recommendation. It's preferable if they have some community service, Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, anything like that, or Civil Air Patrol. Anything that's community service, B average, and they have to have 3 letters of recommendation. So I have the applications with me tonight. They have to be turned in by the 18th of April. The 18th of April. So see me if you'd like an application.
And we can scan them and put them on the website. So the last thing that we have going, so don't forget, this is my last year. Elson Nash, we were taking applications for officers. These slots will be open. After June, I'm walking off into the sunset. It's not coming back. But quite seriously, we're looking for people. So Elson Nash, we will have it on the website. Elson's not here tonight, but we circulated it on the newsletter, so we want to make sure to do it. The other thing we've been asked about the Easter egg hunt that we had last year, we're looking for volunteers to do it. It takes a lot of people to manage that Easter egg hunt. And then the final announcement is on DC Fair elections that Dexter Williams is in the back of the room. That was actually signed by the mayor today. So Dexter, thank you for your hard work. It was very successful. Great work, Dexter. It's good when you have a millennial working on very interesting legislation. So Dexter, thanks for knocking that out of the park. We really appreciate it. And then finally, I don't forget we have from Vincent Gray's office, Cedric Muhammad. Cedric, before we adjourn, do you have any announcements?
Well, you made the announcement.
But you do it better, so.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Cedric Muhammad. I'm Councilman Brigades Director of Constituent Services. I am happy to be at this meeting tonight. I and the rest of the staff, we hit meetings every night. For the past few months, I've been at another meeting, actually, that I actually had to stay at throughout the meeting, and we had another staffer here. Anyway, we do have, what you mentioned a few minutes ago, the State of the Ward address, which is tomorrow night at Kelly Miller. Doors open at 6 o'clock. It starts at 7. And if I were you, I'm going to be camping out tonight because of what I understand is going to be thousands of people just waiting to get into here, Councilman Gray speak. That's just a joke. But anyway, I hope you all can attend, and if you need to call me, if you want to call me, if you want to call and say hello, have any concerns, I sometimes sit by the phone, and honestly, I cannot wait for it to ring. Today, no, I do. So my number is 741-0912. 741-0912. I'd be happy to give you a card as well, and feel free to contact me anytime, day or night, any time of the day, or weekday or weekend. Thank you again.
Thank you very much, Cedric. And he's serious. He will be waiting to be called. He does answer the calls. So thank you very much. Is there any other announcements that I missed? I saw Laura Richards here. Okay. I guess. Okay. Any other announcements? If not, yes, Joan.
We're trying to see if we can do the yard sale, but we can't get the church parking lot for May or June, which was the ideal months, and this was the ideal site. So Jimmy is talking to the Penn Shopping Center to see if we can get the back lot. So it's still in flux, whether we have the yard sale this year or not.
You can hold your stuff.
So Susan, who just worked, just said, hold your stuff. Pay attention to the website. If you're not on the listserv, make sure you sign in. Use your email, write legibly, we'll add you there. We circulate a lot of information on the listserv. If you did get the newsletters, we sent them out. We send the newsletter out, so there's 2 ways to get it. If you have any questions, if not, info@pennbranchdc.org. So again, thank you all for coming. Appreciate it. Meeting adjourned. Motion to adjourn the meeting?
Yes, motion.
Second? Okay, meeting adjourned.
Before you consider guys for the evening, I want to give you one quick report of an action item, and that relates to the March 20th hearing on the comprehensive plan. I discussed this with the executive committee meeting. There are proposed amendments to the comprehensive plan. We want to come out very strongly in favor of amendments that protect our neighborhood and that give us continued ability to have some say in our community. Some of the proposed amendments would completely eviscerate the ability of the community to comment. I know the Earl Williams is here, Mrs. Williams, and the Federation is very much opposed to some of these proposed amendments, and I know the ANC is on board with keeping citizen choice and citizen power in the plan. So if I could just, I know the executive board is in favor of this, so if I could just get a voice vote so that we can prepare some testimony and get it in. So hearing no objection.
You know what, I think the problem is because it's difficult to voice vote when we have half the room that has left. Unfortunately, I think we'll have to find a way to send out because we know there's something else. Robert's Rules of Order is quite clear yet. Well, we'll take that up. Okay.
We're going to deal with the executive committee and email, but the main thing is as many people as could come on March 20th at 2 o'clock to testify on the comp plan. Please come, and even if you're not testifying, just be there. Thanks. Bye-bye.